Kia ora and welcome to another episode of The Leadership Lounge. I'm Katie, I'm your host. It is great to have you here and with us, listening along and joining in, come into the Leadership Lounge. We've got the big sofas, we've got the warm coffee, we are ready to go. We might even have biscuits this week. I think there's biscuits this week because this is episode 61. And this is the final episode of season 4. Now, I've really just made up the seasons, to be honest. I believe it's my podcast. I can do that, right? We create our own rules so many times, and this is one that's working for me. So episode 61 of The Leadership Lounge. Welcome. I'm Katie. I'm your host, and I've worked in healthcare. Oh dear, giving myself up already. I've worked in healthcare for over 30 years. I've done a huge number of different jobs, and I have loved and enjoyed and been challenged in every single one of them. And right now I am working as a coach and a facilitator, and I work with healthcare leaders and their teams so that they can feel supported, energized, optimistic, and encouraged about the work that you are doing every day. Because working in healthcare is hard, okay? It is tough, it is draining, it is an emotional piece of work. But I also believe that it can be joyful, it can be delightful, and it can be something that can be inspiring. And that's the work that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change that balance, I suppose. Having last week said there's no such thing as life-work balance, I want to shift the dials so that we tap into the joy and the positivity that working in healthcare can be and should be. And this podcast is part of that, so welcome into the lounge. So yeah, last episode of season 4, and a big moment really, because I've kind of timed it because I'm going to be taking this huge, massive leap and walking. I'm walking to the UK. No, I'm not. I'm moving back to the UK after 17 years in Aotearoa, and this is a massive thing for me. We're going because we need to be closer to family. We're really clear on our why as to why we're going, and we are very excited and hopeful about a lot of things. But it's also a little bit bittersweet. And so to give myself a bit of grace, I'm going to pause the podcast for a couple of weeks while I do that. And my next podcast, this sounds quite exciting. So season 5 will kick off in the UK. Now this is going to be funny because I won't have the microphone. I'm going to be just laptop. Who knows how it's going to go, but I am, as you know, committed, determined. And apparently someone told me the most organised person they know. I did laugh out loud at that. However, I'm going to run with that. So yeah, season 5 will kick off from the UK in a few weeks' time when I am over there and be able to go, whoo. So this is a good thing, right? So this was a good moment to just consider this point of transition, because this is exactly where I'm at, this point of transition. Now, in the health sector, I have transitioned between various different jobs. I have worked with people as they've moved from one job to another. I have considered teams and projects and all of this kind of stuff. And let me just say, I think our moments of transition are great opportunities, and I don't know if we make the most of them and really acknowledge them as much as we could or we should. And so when I started thinking about this episode, I was like, oh yeah, this should all be about new beginnings. And then I thought, oh no, it's not yet. That's when I get there. Maybe it should be about endings. And I'm like, oh no, this is about the transition point and what that all kind of makes up. And so a couple of things, I started doing a little bit of like note taking and a bit of scribbling around stuff. And I have to confess, I didn't do a huge amount of my normal Googling and researching around the different topics. I took 2 things that were front of mind and that I knew and I use, on the assumption that you'll have probably heard of them. And this is a good sort of contextualizing them and how we put them into practice. So if you consider the situation you're in right now, it might be your team's going through change. There is still huge amounts of change going on in healthcare systems around the world. Aotearoa is in particular shifting of a whole lot of stuff going on, but I also know in the NHS around and in the US, there's a lot going on, and they're just those 3. So when we think about this idea of transitions, the first thing that came to mind was Tuckman's model. So that's the forming, storming, norming, performing. Now, this is quite a well-known sort of team model, if you look, and it's about useful for kind of considering where is my team at, what do we need to do, what's happening, all of this kind of stuff. So this model quite good when you're considering your team, also good when you're considering changes within that team. And the final stage, which depending on which article you read, I haven't properly re-researched this, so you're going to have to go and do that Googling yourself, or just let it be and just like, do I need to worry about this? That the final stage, the adjourning stage, was added sort of later. And this is this idea of doing endings well. So this is the completion, this is the ending part of that team model. And the idea that teams come together for a specific purpose. And so this, particularly if you think about a particular project that we need to do, quality improvement piece of work, a change piece of work, there is an ending to that and what that involves. But when I first read it, I also considered it about when people are leaving as an individual sort of basis around when teams leave. When someone leaves from a team, that team dynamic shifts and changes because that person has been part of the whole and then you're taking something out. So I don't know how it's supposed to be read, but they're the two ways I've kind of considered it. And I know a very wise woman that will put me straight if I've got this wrong. So there are some important things around that sort of phase. And it's a real kind of duality, which is a great thing for leaders to kind of get their head around. This ability to hold two opposing ideas with equal grace. And you've got this idea of celebrating. So if you're wrapping up a project, you're completing something, the team's work is done, there's a space to celebrate. But there is also a space of loss, an ending and a gap. Because that work is done and that work is no longer needed, or that project is no longer needed, or you're walking away from something. So they sit there together. And in the same way, if you look at it from an individual perspective and someone leaving, you've got this space of celebrating what they've contributed, what they've done, the difference that they've made, all of that stuff. But there's also a sense of loss, that they're not going to be there anymore, or that they're leaving a team that they've really loved, or a place that they've really loved. So a lot like last week when I talked about that in a period of the midpoint of the year and the period of Matariki, where we're considering this space of reflection and looking back, is that same kind of idea around considering the celebrating what we're doing, but also what else does that mean? So there's some very tangible kind of like practical kind of aspects you can consider if this is where you're at right now, and if you're about to leave a team, or a team is closing down, or that particular team is ending. Please don't. Oh my God. Okay, so this is what happens. We can have change restructures go on and one team kind of just morphs with another bit of a team and we just think that work's going to continue. Please, no. No. Every time I have got stuck or regretted things in my career, it's when I have not ended things well and acknowledged the ending. So it might be messy, it might feel like there's not the time, it might be uncomfortable, all of that sort of stuff. End well. So, from a practical point, you've got to wrap up. What are any key deliverables that we need to finish? What is the stuff that we need to complete and wrap up? And I'm definitely in that phase right now. And I can hear Adam at work doing the same kind of things around wrapping up these things, making things as completed as possible. There's also a great space for reflecting on the lessons that are learned. And I'm definitely doing that over my period of 17 years here in Aotearoa. The things that I've been through, the moments, the lessons, there are heaps. So that space of reflection. But there's also this space to celebrate in that reflection. Again, that blend of the loss, but also the celebration, those contributions that have been made, and to recognise that and to call them out. And I just want to shout out, because on a very personal note, when I left work, and actually in a few of my jobs, I don't think I've done endings well. And that's partly on me, partly on the situation. And there is a tinge of regret and sadness over not being able to end well in some places. And to have that mark of celebration and acknowledge the space of loss, because it's important to acknowledge the loss, right? So I'm sad about that I haven't done it well in some places and sometimes. And so this is that message to you. If you're in that, please do, because it sits with you and you'll look back. and they are important moments. So my shout out is that for Adam leaving, they are doing it well. And it just fills my heart with joy when I have heard the stories that Adam has come home with, and seeing what's been written in the cards, acknowledging the gifts that he's been given and the things that are being said about him. And it is beautiful to see, so it can be done. And I'm just so delighted that he is getting that as he ends this time. I have, so you're not all feeling like really sorry for me right now. I have been having some amazing messages being sent to me, some emails, comments on LinkedIn posts, and they are of a general theme of best wishes and knowing that I'm going to do well because of what I bring into the spaces that I work in, but also acknowledging the contributions that I have made to the health system as a whole in New Zealand. Because, and I guess probably because of this last 3 years of the different type of work I've been doing in different places. So I have taken every single one to heart. I have not yet replied to all of them, and I will get there. But there are so many, and they are so lovely, and I'm just really sort of like absorbing them at the moment, and I will get to replying. So if you have sent me a message of acknowledgement or thanks, please know I have read it. It is sitting in my heart, and I will get back to you. But that has been a lovely point for me in terms of that celebrating and just hearing those messages. So in the absence of being able to have some sort of big shindiggy farewell ending event, those messages have been meaning the world to me. So thank you for doing that. So that's that felt all very emotional, I have to confess. Might just need to take a moment, take a breath, as we do, before I kind of steam on. So that's the Tuckman model. Now, if you're interested in the Tuckman model and in models to do with teams in general, I do have a very handy sort of summary of a whole load of the real common team models that can be used in various different settings. And so I'll pop a link to that. So that might be useful if you're really interested in this idea of how teams work. Nearly did a massive cough there. Surprisingly, 61 episodes in, and I've learnt to find the pause button so that I don't cough and have to edit it out. Get me! Only took me 61 episodes to learn that. See? Anything's possible. This is what I'm talking about. This is hope. This is possibility. All right. That was the Tuckman model. That's the norming, forming, storming, performing, and then the adjourning, the ending phase at the end. Okay. All right. So the other model to consider, you might not have heard of this one. This is the Bridges model, and this is talking about this transition model. And this is where we're kind of at the moment, or where I'm sitting, or where I'm thinking at the moment. So we've got this space of endings. So it's kind of a 3-phase kind of model. We've got this endings phase. This is the letting go and saying goodbye. And I have to say, probably up until the last, maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, the thought of letting go of 8-hour was actually pretty hard. I was actually struggling with this. I was kind of gripping it almost with my fingertips. It's very weird. And so this idea of just letting go kind of gave me a little bit more energy, a little bit more space. And I have a number of conversations about how do you let things go, because this idea of letting go can come up with a whole load of stuff. It can be situations that you can't change. It can be things in the past that you can't do anything about. It can be people that you can't fix, putting that in inverted commas as you like. So how do we let go? Now, I wish I had the answer to this because I'm clearly still in the learning process of it. A phrase that helps me is, if it's hard to let go, if you're gripping on so tightly, there's kind of like this physical just release your hands. It's almost like this bring your body into the situation. So if you're holding on to something, just tighten up your hands, tighten up everything, gripping it, this imaginary thing that you're gripping, and then just take a breath and just loosen your fingers. Just relax your fingers down. Take that breath. So you're sort of imagining it through your body. Using our bodies rather than our minds can really help when this is hard. The other phrase that I find useful in this is this idea of holding it lightly. If putting this imaginary thing down that you've been gripping so hard is so hard, so uncomfortable, it's just not there yet, just hold it lightly. Maybe just put it on a cushion next to you. I hope you're following the imagery here. But it's this idea of when we're letting something go. So I'm definitely not, flinging it into the back cupboard and not forgetting all about it. This is about dealing with things with respect and with honour and with grace. Because if you've been holding on to something really tightly, then that's because it matters and it's important to you. And for some reason, there's a strong connection. Whether that be a good or a bad connection, it's strong. So you need to honour that regardless. We've got very, very metaphysical all of a sudden. This is where my head is at. But this idea of endings. So this can work, particularly if you're thinking about spaces of change. And as we know, there's a lot of change going on in the health systems. So if you're a team that is in an ending space and it's being restructured and being changed into something else, honour the ending. And if that is hard, just give it a chair, give it a cushion, just hold it lightly. But that ending is coming and you need to let it go. Now that can involve a whole lot of things around stuff, but it is often more about embracing the sadness and the loss. And we can often try and skim over those bits when we're thinking about transitions or change. But actually the acknowledging those emotions, I'm going to be really sad because of X, Y, Z. I'm really going to miss X, Y, Z. We need to give the space for those. And that can feel uncomfortable and it can feel like we need to get on and build the new thing. We've got this new team, we've got work to do. But if you don't give it the space so that you can let it go, then it's just going to hover around and going to be batting you over the head. Trust me. All right. So there's endings. This is the Bridges model. Those are the endings. And then the next phase is this. Sometimes they call it the transition thing, and I've seen some good images, and I'll pop a link to some really good images around this or diagrams around it, this transition part, or they sometimes call it the neutral zone. And this is this space of in between. So often we think, here's the ending, here's the beginning. But what the Bridges model says is that there's this space in between, and we have to move from the ending through this neutral zone or this transition space or this bridge space into the new zone. You can't just jump. You can't just leap. We are not Tom Cruise. So this neutral zone, this is about being okay with uncertainty. It's about exploring. It's about considering. It's about sitting with that stuff. And I am definitely in the space of trying to jump into the new beginnings. I'm thinking about, okay, what am I going to do when I get there? I need this job, blah, 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 blah. I've got to get that. I've got to do that. I'm already into all this new stuff. But actually, I need to sit more in this space of being okay with uncertainty. And that is really friggin' hard, right? How many of us want to do that? This certainty aspect is kind of, it almost feels like it's a utopia right now within the healthcare sector because there has been so much uncertainty and we are tired of the uncertainty. We are tired of not knowing. We want some stability. We want some certainty. And if you think about things like the SCARF model, all of that stuff, it says how much we need this. So this is not a pleasant place to be necessarily. But that's okay because it is sitting with that level that allows you to create the new beginnings. So again, if you've got a team that's being changed and restructured, let's do the endings. Let's let people say goodbye. Let's let people talk about what they're going to miss and what they're sad about. And then let's acknowledge that we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know how this team is going to come together. We don't know what the work is going to look like. We don't know if we're going to be successful. And let's just go, we know that's what we're sitting with. Okay. But it does create a space of possibility and exploration. We can start to be explorers. Now that sounds like quite an adventure to me. Everything is an adventure, framing it like that. This is the adventure zone. Adventure World. Is Adventure World in New Zealand? Not New Zealand. Disneyland? Disneyland Space? Adventureland? I'm pretty sure it is. Let's take it. And then your third step, your third phase in this model is the phase of new beginnings. Okay, so this is that place of the possibilities and the early steps and the what first. But it's also a space of confusion because you're not quite sure and you're still learning and you're still in this naive space around stuff. But it is quite exciting, and in terms of that sort of more upbeat about this is a new beginning, this is that fresh start. This is the opening the brand new notebook kind of moment. If you're a stationary geek, you know what I'm talking about. So this is the new possibilities phase. But yeah, comes with a bit of confusion. So there we go. We've got 2 models there for you to consider if you're at a time of transition or change, or if you're thinking about new things, or why are we struggling with not moving on? Have we considered all those phases? There is so much out there in terms of change, all of that kind of stuff to do with things. But let's take it to a real personal level around how we move through this stuff. And I think the other top tip in this is that people can move through these phases at different speeds. And you've kind of got to respect that. But you've got to give people the tools to enable them to do it. And sometimes painting the path can help. And acknowledging there, this is an ending phase, and this is a time of sadness, and it can be feeling like a time of loss. And this is the phase that comes next. And then this is what comes after that. And we need to move through this. And what do you need to move through these things? Okay, so it can be, you don't want to let people flounder in these spaces. You want to draw what the map is. You want to guide people where they're going. But you also need to ask them, what do they need to move through those things? Because we're going to have to move through things. Because things are going to end. I will be getting on a plane. I will be going to the UK. Maybe my neutral zone, I can sit for 24 hours on a plane in complete confusion. What am I doing? And then move into this new beginnings phase when I land over there. So we've got to move through these phases. Okay. All right. 2 models. Take what you will from that, those different stories. If people are leaving, please end moments with them well. It really does matter. It really does make a difference. And again, thank you for all the messages that I've been getting. They are truly heartwarming and soul-filling messages that I've been getting. So thank you. Okay, wrapping up season 4. I have no idea how podcasts are supposed to do this. Maybe I should listen to a few more podcasts than I currently do. Maybe that could be my a bit of exploring while I'm in my neutral zone. Maybe. Who knows? Ideas for filling the neutral zone. You see, I need to fill zones rather than empty the spaces. That's going to get really deep really quickly, so I'm going to wrap up that one. Okay, thank you so much for listening to the Leadership Lounge. Starting this podcast has been one of those big leaps in my life, in my work zone, if you like, and I have been exceptionally proud of it. I enjoy it so much. I enjoy this recording every week as much as I enjoy sitting down and writing the No Jedi email. So this is a good prompt. The No Jedi email will continue. I've banked a few, let's be honest. I won't be sitting writing on the plane. I'll have banked a few up. Please join in, because that is your sprinkling of inspiration, hope and joy, and these possibilities. The possibilities that are out there for you and for all of us that come into your inbox every week through the No Jedi email. It has nothing to do with Star Wars. It's a long story. There's a video on it. You can find out. Talking of videos, the other thing I've been doing, and you need to be in the No Jedi email to get this, I videoed my bookcase being packed up, and there's a series of videos as I go through the books and what I got from them and what I'd recommend and what I haven't really read and I pretend I have, all of that kind of stuff. Very real, very authentic, very off-the-cuff videos, but only available via the No Jedi email. So there you go. Now you really, really want to, don't you? You really want to sign up for that. So you can sign up for that at katiequinney.com/subscribe. And it'd be great to have you as part of the hundreds of people that are getting that from around the world every week. Okay, waffle aside, you can tell I don't really want to end it, which is funny given what I've just been talking about. But here we are, wrapping up, saying farewell and thank you to the end of season 4 of the Leadership Lounge. And I will be back with season 5 coming to you from the other side of the world as such for season 5. And you all take care. You are all doing way, way better than you think you are. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself a bit of self-compassion and appreciate, and go and thank somebody. Go and spread the joy and pass on some appreciative feedback. Let's pass on that energy and watch it spread around the world. All right, you all take care, and I will be back very soon.